When she was
Okay.
born or where she was born.
Both. Whatever. Tell me about when Mom was born. And what happened right after then.
Huh. No,
Well,
the
when she was born, we were, we were at that time, Daddy and me were building a home, a house in Boonville, Mississippi. Daddy hurt his back, and he couldn't lift those rocks and those stones and everything. And the person we were building that house for was named Roy Rhodes. So Roy Rhodes went down in his car and brought Daddy and me home, back to Corinth. And he was doing that recuperative time that Daddy was home and couldn't work, that Mama became pregnant with Barbara. And Daddy stayed, I can't remember exactly how many weeks and all it took for him to get to where he could hardly do anything. But finally he got back to the point where he could do a little work, and we went back to Boonville to go back to work on the house. Now that was when we lived in a 2.5-story house. Actually, we called it a 3-story house because one floor was below the ground. Half the window was even with the ground outside.
Mhm.
So it was 2.5 stories tall, and we lived in that. And we lived on the lower part of it. We had part of the top part rented out. But while Daddy was recuperating during that particular period, Mama became pregnant with Barbara. And we finally went back to Boonville when Daddy got where he could do some work, and I was still able to lift those heavy rocks. I wouldn't let him lift any. I mean, it seemed as time went on, I got stronger. I lifted rocks and stones until we finished the house. Then we come back home. And by the time we got back to Corinth, and Daddy started recuperating just a little bit more and getting himself a little in better shape and everything, Barbara was born. And I was there, and I knew in one sense how babies were born, but to me, Mama had just gotten fat. I really didn't know the word pregnancy. I just thought she'd gotten fat because Mama had a tendency every once in a while to get a little stomach on her. And so I don't know all I was doing, but I was there, as usual in a way, I guess, doing everything else. I used to haul commodity groceries. I had a little wagon. I'd go to the commodity where Roosevelt and them had instituted to give people food that didn't have anything to eat. I'd haul wagon loads of cabbages and all kind of old stuff to bring to people that that didn't have anything to eat. But that day I heard that crying sound. So I rushed in the house and rushed down. There she was. There was another woman there. It lived in the house, and she was there with Mama. And so I come rushing down, and they didn't try to stop me or nothing else. And then I saw Barbara, and they were, of course, cleaning her up a little bit and all that kind of thing. Then I asked if I could hold her, and they let me hold her. And then sent me back out to play and do whatever I needed to do. And that's when I had the 2 little pennies that I had gotten for going to a coal yard and hauling a little wagon load of coal for some people, and they had given me a nickel, 5 pennies, and I spent 3 of them, because 3 cents would buy you a whole bunch of candy, and I had 2 pennies left. So I went uptown to what they call a F.W. Woolworth store, 10-cent store, and I bought the 2 little Chinese dolls in the little boxes that felt like matchstick, but not bigger than little penny matchboxes back in those days. And I brought them back to give them to her. And then, of course, I was able to find out a little bit more. And nosy me, I wanted to know everything, but certain things they wouldn't tell me, but I found, but anyway, she says she still has those 2 little boxes that I went down to the store and sacrificed my 2 pennies for, that I could have bought a whole bunch of candy for, to give to her. And so I guess I'm the 2nd or 3rd person that ever held her after she was born. And I guess to me she was the baby, and I've called her baby all her life. Because even then I simply called her baby. She didn't have a name, so I just called her the baby. And here today, I still call her the baby. She has a poem that I wrote that says to Barbara